When someone casually says, "I like Tommy Shelby," most people hear this surface-level shorthand. Cool gangster, nice coat, sharp haircut. But that sentence is actually one of the most honest, unpacked confessions a person can make about their own inner architecture. It's a Rorschach test for the soul, dressed in a three-piece suit and a permanent haze of cigarette smoke and Birmingham rain. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what it means when you feel that magnetic, unsettling pull toward the man in the flat cap. And I promise, by the end, you'll never hear those 4 words the same way again. It starts with the central, blazing contradiction that burns in every single scene he inhabits, a paradox that is the very engine of his charisma. On the outside, Tommy Shelby is the absolute zenith of control, a monument to self-possession carved from ice and willpower. He speaks in a low murmur, so softly you must lean into the silence he creates, as if each sentence is a state secret passed through barbed wire. Every word is a calculated chess move on a board only he can see, played 3 steps ahead of everyone else in a game where the stakes are always life and death. His suits are his armor, impeccably tailored and unyielding. His stare is a cold, blue steel weapon that can dismantle a man's courage before he throws a punch. His silence itself feels louder than gunfire, a pressurized void where threats and strategies take solid form. To the world, he looks like a man who has bent reality to his will through sheer, ruthless intention. But just underneath that polished granite surface lives the ghost of a soldier who never truly came home from the mud and nightmares of the Somme. The Great War didn't end for Thomas Shelby in 1918. It just packed up, moved inside his skull, and set up a permanent front. The whistle of shells became the tinnitus in his quiet moments. The map of the trenches is now etched behind his eyes, repurposed to navigate the underworld. The no man's land is no longer in France. It's the exact measured distance he maintains between himself and the rest of the human race. And this, right here, is where the real, dangerous seduction begins. He doesn't hide his brokenness. He doesn't apologize for it or try to heal it in any conventional, gentle sense. Instead, with the precision of a battlefield engineer, he weaponizes it. His trauma, the paralyzing panic attacks, the visions of dead comrades, the profound alienation that no amount of money or power can fill, becomes the sharpest, most lethal blade in his arsenal. He didn't defeat his demons. He audited them, recognized their utility, and recruited them into the family business. The hypervigilance that kept him alive in the trenches now perfectly maps his enemy's weaknesses. The emotional numbness that is his private curse allows him to make monstrous decisions that would shatter a feeling man. The constant, grinding anxiety is funneled into relentless forward motion. He took the shrapnel in his soul and forged it into a crown. That's the dark, irresistible fantasy we cannot look away from. Watching someone take the internal chaos that would destroy any ordinary person and forge it in the white-hot fires of pure will into ice-cold, unbreakable order. It's the alchemy of the damned, and we are mesmerized by the process. The show is terrifyingly clever in how it constructs this moral labyrinth. It never, ever lets you judge him from a safe, comfortable distance. From the very first episode, it escorts you into the jury box, sits you down, and then immediately hands you the brief to become his defense attorney. Because it first shows you, in stark and grimy detail, the world that forged him and then spat him out. The corrupt Birmingham police, who beat the poor for sport. The sneering London aristocrats in their gilded cages, who send working-class boys to die, and then sip tea from bone china. The entire civilized system that grinds families into dust while maintaining perfect, polite manners. Their violence is clean, legal, bureaucratic, sanitized by ledgers and legislation, and 1,000 times more cruel in its hypocrisy. Tommy's violence, by contrast, is dirty, personal, visceral. It smells of blood, smoke, and the damp earth of back streets, and it is almost always framed, for us and for him, as protection, as retribution, as the only brutal language a corrupt system truly understands. So the core moral question subtly, masterfully shifts. It stops being, is he a monster? And becomes, what would you become if the game was eternally rigged? If the rules were written by your enemies to ensure you lost? And if playing nice meant the certain destruction of everyone you swore to protect? When you find your heart pounding, secretly rooting for him to outwit his enemies even during his most brutal acts, you're not just enjoying a gangster thriller anymore. You're admitting, on a primal level, that you understand a rage that has nowhere left to go except outward. You're acknowledging the visceral, terrifying appeal of burning down a crooked house, even if you have to get your own hands dirty with the matches. Then, there's the aristocratic, devastating manner in which he suffers, a performance in minimalism that defines modern tragedy. In our age of curated vulnerability, where we live stream our breakdowns and monetize our pain, Tommy Shelby feels everything and shows almost nothing. He is a cathedral of repression, where every stained glass window is blacked out. His story is told in the microscopic cracks that appear in his marble facade, the faint, almost imperceptible twitch in a single jaw muscle, a half-second pause, a beat too long before he delivers a fatal line, the slow, deliberate removal of his glasses, a ritual that signals someone's world is about to be verbally eviscerated. The way he lights a cigarette isn't a habit. It's a sacred rite to steady a universe that trembles on the edge of chaos. These tiny fissures become emotional earthquakes precisely because the walls he's built are so impossibly, tragically high and thick. When he finally does break, when he whispers to Grace that the horses can see my soul, when he stands catatonic in a field as his carefully laid plans burn to ash around him, when he simply stares into the black, oil-slick water of a canal as if it holds the answer, it devastates us more profoundly than any screaming meltdown ever could. If that silence moves you, if that restrained anguish feels more real and noble than dramatic sobbing, it's because deep down, you also subscribe to a quiet, painful belief that true strength is measured not by what you express, but by the weight of what you can carry inside you, day after night after day, without ever letting it spill over to drown the people you love. And finally, we arrive at the crown of his character, the profound, majestic, self-imposed loneliness. He is perpetually surrounded by his fiercely loyal, fractious family, by lovers who glimpse the man behind the myth and reach for him, by soldiers who would die for him with a word. And yet, he is always, always completely and utterly alone in a crowded room. To Tommy, love is the ultimate strategic vulnerability, a flaw in the armor he cannot afford. Grace, the one who almost found the chink in his plate, proved this brutal axiom when she died wearing his sapphire. His love literally marked her for death. Every time he dares to let someone pass the gates, to trust, to soften, the universe seems to punish that moment of weakness with catastrophic loss. A brother betrays him, a wife is assassinated, a son is threatened. The message is seared into his psyche. Connection is casualty. So he responds by building the walls higher, laying another course of brick and mortar, and calling it his destiny. He sits on a throne made entirely of the things he has sacrificed to get there. His peace, his innocence, his happiness, his capacity for simple trust. And somehow, through the sheer alchemical force of Cillian Murphy's performance, that isolation doesn't just look pathetic or sad. It looks noble. Tragic, yes. But noble. A weary king, shoulders squared, choosing to carry the unbearable weight of his crown completely alone, because to share the load is to risk the entire kingdom. When you feel that hollow ache watching him stare out of a rain-streaked window at 3 a.m., a glass of whiskey standing sentry beside him, you're not just observing a fictional character, you're recognizing the part of your own soul that secretly, fearfully believes that the strongest people, the ones who truly change the world, are doomed to walk the last, most important mile completely by themselves. You are, in that moment, romanticizing your own solitude. That is why Tommy Shelby resonates on such a deep, global, and timeless level. He is not someone we genuinely want to be. Who would consciously choose that unending pain? He is someone we're quietly afraid we already are, in much quieter, smaller, domestic ways. Our own desperate, clawing need for control when our personal lives spiral into chaos. Our simmering, inarticulate anger at systems, at work, in society, that feel immutably rigged and unfair. Our deep, often unspoken respect for pain that is borne silently, with dignity and without spectacle. Our private, whispering fear that true intimacy always comes with a devastating price tag, a final invoice written in loss. Liking. Tommy Shelby is the safest possible way to touch those dark, well-guarded corners of ourselves without ever having to speak their names aloud. He is our shadow self, acted out on a grand, cinematic, and brutally elegant scale. So the next time you hear someone say, "I like Tommy Shelby," listen more closely, past the words. They may have just given you a master key to their soul, a map of their frustrations, their griefs, their hidden convictions about strength, survival, and the cost of both. If this analysis hit a little too close to home, drop a comment below with the specific moment that truly imprisoned you. Was it the tunnels of France? The confession to Grace? The way he carries the death of John? The constant, silent war with the Peaky blinders raging inside his own mind? Or, if you're not quite ready to admit what this says about the shadows you yourself hold, just type the family slogan, "By order of the Peaky blinders." It's a safe phrase, a code. We'll all understand what you really mean. Either way, I'll see you in the next one.